if I came to you in 2009, knowing what you know, I'm going to Hollywood. Do you get what I'm saying? So I looked at men and I said, you know what? All these men have figured it out, man. For everyone who gave me 1 naira, thank you. You didn't have to. You can never be on this journey alone. No matter how smart or intelligent you think you are, there's always going to be someone who sees something that you don't see, especially in you.
Got shook, got my money taken away from you, now you're here pleading for forgiveness? Telling me you're sorry? So I ain't gonna give me back my money, bro.
Michael, I wanted to go back because like your story is incredible with how you started. What was your first role? What was your ever first role in Hollywood? Yeah, in America.
Oh, yeah. If you don't mind, I'd like to take you back to my first role in Nigeria.
Yeah, let's go back. Let's go back.
So when I left secondary school, I had this crazy sense that I was going to play in the NBA. Listen, at 5'11", I don't know. I just felt like, the NBA is for me. And I spent years doing that. And of course, you know how it is. My mom, I have this analogy where I was like, my mom used to cook and feed me. And then she decided to cook the food and put it in front of me. Yeah. And then, then I had to pick it up and feed myself. And then after a while that stopped, I had to go look for the food myself. I was always good at, stage acting. We did a lot of dramas at church. I did it in secondary school. And people always tell me, oh, you're a good actor. But I was like, nah, man, I want to go to the NBA. But when I stopped, when you hit your early 20s, mid 20s, and you haven't started like playing professional sports, that's like a downward slope where it's not going to happen. You get to the place where you're like 25 and you tell people you're 16 years old, just so you could, and guess what? I'm 5'11", man. I feel like I'm 7'1", but I had this drive, and I'm saying this because I'm going to explain. I'm going to touch on this again. I had this drive where wherever I went, I loved basketball so much that everyone around me started playing basketball, started watching basketball, because I believed so much in this thing. And I'm sure it's like, what the hell? What's this about this game that gives this guy so much joy? Fast forward. So now I'm broke. I'm not making money. My mom's like traveling, she's not like, have you eaten? At this point, I have to go fend for myself.
Yeah.
And a lot of credit to people take for granted the friends who really see that you have something in you that you can't see in yourself. At this point, there's a lot of insecurity. So it's not like I'm going around thinking, oh, I'm a good actor or I can model or anything. But I remember going to a family friend who was living in Surulere. Surulere is like the hub for actors. And I went to her because she knew my mom, and I said, hey, I want to start acting. First of all, everybody say, first you could be bodyguard, you could be armed robber, you could be thief before, I did they start, like, these are the things you have, and I was willing to do that. I just want to be on TV, So I went there and she discouraged me. She's like, my son, there's really nothing in this business. What, go back to school, go get a job or something. And for me also, what I realized is when I got to Surulere, there were a lot of actors that I saw on TV who drive Mercedes-Benz and they were just sitting on benches eating granolas, just waiting for that next role. I'm like, my goodness, is this the life, So that was kind of discouraging for me, because the life they lived on TV didn't match what I saw, They were just all hanging around. But she told me her brother was doing this marketing job and he's looking for young people to help him. I said, oh, marketing? She's like, yes. So I'm like, oh, I'll do it. So I go to Surulere to meet this guy in Oyakhire. And what he was doing was he would get a few young boys and girls. He would give them a pack of Gillette shaving sticks. And then they would drop you off under the bridge at Oyakhire. Then you sell from Monday to Friday. And then on Friday, based on how much you sold, you get a commission.
Oh, wow.
So I went there and the guy looked at me. He's like, what's the problem? I was like, oh, your sister said, that you're doing this marketing job. He said, are you sure you can do it? I said, yes, I can do it. That kind of thing. And I saw the bus of boys and girls lapping themselves with Gillette boxes.
Wow.
And then he was like, listen, I don't think this is for you. I was like, what? I was like, I can't choose. I told her sister I wanted to work, He's like, what can you do? I said, I can act. He said, are you sure? I said, yes. So he told me to come back the following week. There was an audition. Now, I've never been to an audition before. I have never formally trained as an actor. And when you go for these auditions, you have to go with your picture and your phone number behind or something. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So I just showed up, no experience. And I wrote my name down. I joined the line. And then when it was my turn, the casting directors paired me up with this girl. Gave us a script to read for like 5 minutes. And then we're supposed to come back. And I think my first line was like, hey, what's up? Or how are you? Something like that. And then she just went off. She just went, are you stupid? She just went off. And for a split second, I was like, what did I do? And I just realized, oh, she's in character. And she's upset. And as I read further down, I realized I'm this rich guy who her parents want her to marry, but she doesn't love me. She loves this other guy who's not rich. So then I was like, oh, I should be arrogant. Like, she's screaming. I'm going to scream with her, So I'm just like, calm down or something, So I read in front of the casting directors. They told her to sit down. They paired me up with another guy. And I went and I read with this guy. This like, thank you for coming. You can go home. But here I left that feeling. For me, I thought you were supposed to get the job on the spot. So when they say you can go home, I was like, you fool, who told you could do this? So I went up really feeling bad, like, God, what am I going to do with my life? Like, I can't even act, The following week, the casting directors were looking for me. They didn't know who I was.
Wow.
Because I didn't have a picture or a phone number. So they found the guy that brought me there. He didn't have my phone number or my picture. So he called his sister, and she called my mom. And then my mom said, hey, in Larry, they're looking for you. I think you got the role, So I went back to Larry. And my first role was a script with about 2 or 3 lines. And then I was standing in front of the mirror and say those lines over and over again. And then 2 weeks later, I get a call from the directors like, oh, sorry, we found a better role for you. Can you bring that script back? And I'm like, oh, yeah, right. They found a better actor, they probably saw me like, it was this nobody that, So I go there and I get a binded script. So my first role was like a major role on a TV show called Alero on AIT.
Wow.
That was it, bro. No formal training, nothing. I was on Alero. So that's how I started. So now the first time on set here, I think the first person I worked with here was Jack Black. Was it Jack Black? Jack Black. Nice guy. He stayed in character. My name was Tyrone. In between takes, he's like, yo, so what's your name? I was like, Tyrone. It's like, oh, I'm Jack. I'm like, oh, sorry, my name is Michael. It's like, oh, you're staying in character, huh? And that was surreal, man. Like, it was one of those moments where I'm like, I know Jack Black, So I did that. But still that same thing of how can you sustain this? It's like, a flash in the pan. Like, it's probably never going to happen again. And you have to understand that I wasn't like working every week. It's like you get one job, maybe 2-3 years, you get another one. So that was my first experience. But I'll take it back. No. Let me back up. I worked as an extra. You know what extras are, right?
Yeah.
And for a second, I was like, oh, if I could just be here and watch Jennifer Lawrence and all these guys, you're like, that's the dream, right? And after a while, I'm like, nah, man, I want to be there in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So that was my first experience. And it was a great experience. But then, like I said, I really didn't understand what I was getting into. I'll tell you this. With the information I have now, if I had all this information way back then, I never would have gone into acting in America. And that's where a lot of people get it wrong, because you think it's not the amount of information you can gather, because that in itself can become a stumbling block because you know too much. It's almost like, you're going to fight a fight and you watch the person you're going to fight knock like someone now to the point where the ambulance comes to pick him up. Then you're like, man, I wish I didn't see this. So it's a different thing if you're walking into the ring not knowing what he's done. So yeah, that was my first experience with acting in America. It was Jack Black. It wasn't like, yay, I got a job. It was more like bewilderment, like, oh my God, like, this is Jack Black. Yeah.
Man, that's okay. But you said something very powerful. You said that with all the information that you have now, you wouldn't have started in America. Why do you say that?
So, I did. Man, how do I say this? I don't plan. I remember, one of our uncles actually said, "Michael, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 5-year plan? Did you have a 5-year plan?" And it was, Oyakhire, I've tried all this. Like I've tried, you read a book, 10 steps to 5 steps to do this and do that, And listen, I think, especially when I was in Nigeria in the mid 2000s, like that's when all these motivational books were, were like everywhere. Everyone's reading this, reach that, poor that. Everybody was just like investment. Listen, the reason why it's hard for me to plan is my plan will come from my insecurities. So if I'm going to plan to travel, let's say from Lagos to Ibadan, what do I find out? How much do I have? How long is it going to take? How am I going to eat? Who's going to take, all that stuff. And if I see that I don't have money, then I'm like, there's no need going to Ibadan now. Like I can just stay here. If there's an opportunity in Ibadan, I'm not going to go because of what? I don't have the money. When I started acting, same thing. I had no clue. If I knew what I knew back then, I probably wouldn't have started. When I started modeling, there's a girl, Agnes, I don't know if you remember her. She was at fellowship with us. She was like, "Oh, you have a great smile, you should model." I was like, "Wow." She would never show one model. She's like, "No, I'm serious. You have a great smile, you should model." I was so down the dumps that I could not even see, like, to even plan to become a model. I was like, so Agnes came to pick me up with a taxi one day and took me to Exposure on Victoria Island for an audition. Wow. And I met this British guy called Ben, and he put a headphone on my head, put me in the studio, gave me a jacket, and just said I should act like I sing. I sing, I dance. So like I'm singing, I'm dancing, he's taking pictures. He says, "Wow, you're so good. How long have you been doing this for?" I'm like, it's my first time. And that's how I started modeling. That's how I got on Diamond Bank, billboards. Wow. I was on 5 major newspapers for a month in Lagos. I was in ATM machines. And that's because this girl saw something in me. So I didn't plan that. I didn't plan to live in America. I didn't leave Nigeria and said I'm going to Hollywood. Nobody packs their bags. You've not even broken into Nollywood enough for people to know your name. You're going to Hollywood. Met my wife in Nigeria. We got married, lived there for a year. We're going to visit her family for like 2 weeks. 13 years later, here I am. So it wasn't like, so when I say, so even when I got here, I'm living in Boston, right? Boston is a small market. If you want to become an actor, you have to go to LA or New York. So nobody starts in, everyone who wants to act, you either travel to LA or New York. If you're in Boston, you're like a dreamer. So here I am from Nigeria. I didn't plan to live here, but then I'm going to live here. So what am I going to do for work? I don't have a college degree. And if you're an immigrant in America, there are go-to jobs for you. There are go-to jobs. You're an immigrant, all right, health services. Yeah. Or you go take a loan, go back to nursing school. Like this jobs are just like, they were just like, yeah, immigrant, go join the rest of them, But then I'm like, I told Sarah, I was like, I want to go back to Nigeria. I can't do this yet. I feel like I have a better chance of being successful as an actor in Nigeria than I would in America. Thank God I stayed. But I started painting houses. This is what a lot of people don't know. I was doing a lot of odd jobs. I've driven Uber, Lyft. Like that's not the American dream. You don't leave Nigeria to go, it's like you come with, but when I decided to act, it was one of those things like, where they say ignorance is bliss. If you look at the film, now the industry has changed where there's more diversity now, but there's always the Great White Hope, and then they add, all the people to the sides. And then here I am from Nigeria. I have an accent. I've never formally trained as an actor. Like I didn't know all that, So that's what helped me foolishly walk into this. And I say foolishly because it's key. If you think you're wise, you're not going to succeed in anything. If you think you have so much wisdom, and I'm just saying common sense, like there's so much information out there for you to say, no, this is not the right thing to do. But who says that? You know? So for me, when I say I didn't have information and that helped me, but now I know too much to even, like, if my son comes and says that I want to become an actor, as a parent, I'm like, man, I would encourage him, don't get me wrong, but I know too much. I know too much. So it could be that I know too much to guide him and encourage him when he feels down and out and nothing's working for him, or know too much to say, don't do this, find something else, you know? So that's what I mean by, and I think now with social media, you watch 10 classes, watch few clips here, and everybody just gather information, and based off of that, they're ready to take over the world, you know? But really, it takes time and, you know, in the process, you know.
I feel like my eyes are sweating. I mean, you've been speaking, and I feel like it's just been like tugging at my soul, literally, brother. It's just been like hitting me, because not only do I know your story, but I also understand the reality of what you're explaining and what you're sharing, and it's both thrilling and exciting, but also scary to imagine that this is the world that we are in, and this is the journey that we've had to face. But it's also exciting to just really see how it's turned out.
You know, I'll tell you this. In Africa, right, I see this a lot. When we were young, everybody feared their dads. Like there was daddy's chair, oh, my daddy's back, my daddy's coming back, oh, let's turn off the TV, my daddy will be home, my daddy said, my daddy this, my daddy. I saw I only saw mothers relate with children. I never saw dads or parents taking kids to the park. Wasn't part of our culture growing up, you know. So I looked at men and I said, you know what? All these men have figured it out, man. Like one day I'm going to grow up and become a dad where, I'll have no problems. I have all my bills taken care of, and all these people will fear and respect me. I saw it at home. I saw it in the church. The way dads walk in and everybody said, welcome, sir. Good morning, sir. Pastor this, daddy this, uncle that, you know. So I'm like, the goal is to get to...
You scammed.
I was chasing stability. But it was all a facade, man. It doesn't exist. You know, when I started crying as a man, I was like, man, were all those uncles crying and no one saw them? No, I'm telling you, because, and I also have this thing where in Nigeria we do this, where you just show up to your uncle's house and say you want school fees. Or you just say, uncle, I came to greet you, and then we know what it's about, you know. And I tell you, more times than not, they gave me something. Now I look and I'm like, oh my God. For everyone who gave me 1 naira, thank you. You didn't have to. And the funny thing is, I wonder if they were struggling. They never showed us their weaknesses. All they showed us perfection, strength. So we aspired to get that. And here I am struggling, like, when am I going to become this man who's figured it out? It doesn't happen. Because the moment you think you've solved one problem,
another one,
something else, you know, comes up, you know. And you have to understand, with creativity also, it's not linear. You don't go to school, get a degree, and that now means you're going to get a job as an actor or a cinematographer or director. Nah, man. And when people ask me, Michael, so what can you tell me 5 things, or how did you get here? I'm like, man, you just got to own your own story, man. And people underestimate the power of friends. You can never be on this journey alone. No matter how smart or intelligent you think you are, there's always going to be someone who sees something that you don't see, especially in you. And the humility to receive that is key. Everything I've done, there's a guy, Sheyi Baba Tokwe. Oh my God, man. I met Shay playing basketball in Syrian Club and YMCA in Oyakhire Road. And this guy just took a liking to me, man.
Mm.
Shay would just come pick me up, take me to the American Club in Ikoyi, we'd get burgers, and he would just encourage me. And when he found out I was an actor, he invited me over to his house one day. And he's like, "Oh man, do you know monologues? Do you have a monologue?" Risi, I keep calling Risi, Oyakhire.
Yeah.
I didn't know what a monologue was. This guy played Denzel Washington for me. This is 2007. I'm watching like Denzel. Oh, I could go watch Hollywood finish. It was like I watch this guy, man. Check out his monologue, man. He was just showing me these things that I couldn't see. But Shay saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. Shay was showing me American movies. I was like, bro, I'm not ready for this, man. Fast forward, this same Shay guy I don't know when, but a couple years ago, out of pressure, people were like, go back to school, blah, blah, blah. I was going to take a loan in America and go back to school. To study what, bro? I don't know. But I think the right thing to do is to go back to school. So I'm going to go back to school to find stability. Out of the blue, Shay Babatape calls me. He's like, "Yo, what's up, bro? How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm good." It's like, "Yeah, what's going on, man?" I was like, "Man, it sounded so smart. Yo, boy, I'm going to take a loan. I'm going back to school." It's like, "What?" He said, "Don't take a loan in America, man. Do not get into debt in America. Just keep grinding, my brother. Don't lose focus, my brother. Don't lose focus." He kind of woke me up at that stupor. I was going to take a loan that would have taken me years to pay back for a degree or course that I didn't even know if I wanted to do. This same guy, I called to say, "Shay, please put me in a movie in Nigeria." He's like, "Yo, you're losing focus, bro. You're losing focus, bro. You got to focus. Cats want to be where you're at, man. Don't come back. You're losing focus, man." And that's it. He never let me settle. And that's what I'm talking about, the power of friends who are around you. Don't forget, I'm not coming here thinking, me, I'll go conquer this place, anything I want. So the ignorance was bliss that I walk into an audition and not care. People ask me, "Where you from?" I'm like, "Nigeria."
You didn't even call yourself.
No, bro, that's the ignorance, man. But you know what? That made me more interesting. And they'd be like, "Oh, you're from Nigeria?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm from Nigeria." So, "Oh, but you were born here, right?" I was like, "Nah, man, I moved here." I said, "When?" I'm like, 2012. So get out of here. I'm like, "Yeah, I moved there in 2012. So you weren't born here?" I'm like, "No." So them was like, "What are you, like, what gives you, So it's, with creativity, there's a little bit of, you got to be foolish. That's just it. It's not a little bit. You got it, because people who love you, we have good things to say, good things to guide you and tell you what should work. And when this is not from hatred, bro. It's like they've seen you suffer. It's like, guy, how far do you want to beat this thing? Like, come on, So that's what I mean by too much information. When you get too smart, then I think that's when you get into a lot of stumbling blocks, because you almost like see your end, not knowing that there's something even greater ahead of you.
That's incredible, man. I've never heard it put that way. I've never heard it, but there's a thing about what you're talking about that also plays into the entire dynamics of what it is to really follow the things that you have been called to do and the things that you are passionate about. And it just goes beyond just the art. It goes beyond being creative. It touches on literally every aspect of life. We've crossed the barrier of creativity talk right now. We're talking about life, because that is what this is part of the reasons why a lot of people have, forgotten where they came from, forgotten what they are able to really do, and irrespective of what the craft or the business or the idea is, because there's always this wave, there's always this new move of things, and it's very easy for a lot of us to forget our identity, our authentic. You are not that person. That's that person's wave. Let that person ride his wave. You have yours, right? Well, I'm so excited about this because I've spoken to a couple of people, and a couple of them I do not know them, but I know you. So as you're explaining it, it's like there's flesh being added to the bones, sinews. So it's crazily beautiful and I wish others can get what I'm getting, but it's crazily beautiful what you're saying. And if I look back even further, I also want to track back to, I think Sheikh Babatope is the director of what movie
When Love
now?
Happens or something. He did
Yeah,
When Love
when
Happens or something.
When Love Happens. So he's a big time director in Nigeria. For those who are not familiar with his movies, check it out. That amazing guy. So he's someone who not just only understands, the craft, but he also understands the Nigerian dynamics and the space, and he could easily have given you a spot, brought you back in, giving you stuff to go, and you could have really ridden that wave, and you could have gone with it. But he had the clarity to be able to point you that this is not for you. That is for somebody else. Yours is somewhere else. And I want to talk about that. That's somewhere else. That yours that is somewhere else. Because as an actor, I've had the opportunity to. I was speaking to you as an actor, but I've had the opportunity to speak to editors, speak to animators, a bunch of really talented, different people, diverse in their own different ways, locally, internationally. Everybody is doing their thing. But one thing that is happening is that the world seems to be becoming smaller, in the sense that the way technology is kind of compressing roles, and the social media is kind of compressing roles, and so you need to be able to do this, do that, and these many things. But at the end of the day, there is always that person that stands out from the crowd doing this particular thing. And for me, I'm always curious as to how does a talented person maintain that consistency for a period of time, to the extent where they can have their own voice, their own niche, irrespective of all the other tools and other things that they need to learn. I'm not going against the grain on technology. I'm not going the grain here on learning multiple different things, but I really want to understand your process as an actor in being able to stay informed 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, still pursuing the same craft.
So I'll go back to Nigeria. I never had a formal training as an actor. I just played emotions. I played happy, sad, angry. And if you're good looking, you get the fine boy roles, And I'm not slighting the industry. I love the Nollywood industry because those guys helped me dream. So my point is, I was able to get in. The standards have changed now. You can't get away with that in Nollywood anymore, But that's how I started. I was Dr. Shegun on Family Ties for 3 years. And when I look at that, a friend of mine told me one time, saying, I feel like your character is just there, I never pushed, I never asked questions. I just did my job, and I went home for 3 years, right, as a doctor. But when I came to America, I remember going for a commercial audition. And for some reason, I was like, man, I'm going to introduce myself to everyone I meet here today. So I walk in after the audition. I'm like, hey, my name is Michael Jibrin. I'm shaking everybody. And then I met this guy. He gave me a card and told me to check out this acting coach. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I called the guy, he asked me a few questions, like, what are my goals and all that. So he invited me over. And that's when I met the acting coach that changed my life, Scott Fielding. I worked with Scott for 3.5 years, studying Meisner. Have you heard of that technique before?
Nope.
Meisner is, the definition of Meisner is living truthfully in an imaginary world. And listen, we go from some serious something called mechanical repetition. And some of these things sounds crazy and cuckoo, where I'll tell you, you're wearing a green shirt, you tell me I'm wearing a black shirt, and we'll just keep doing that back and forth. I did that for like 6 weeks. I remember going home and my wife asking me, like, so what did you guys do today? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, we're just doing this thing called mechanical repetition. But working and studying Meisner for 3.5 years, it broke me as a person. And what do I mean? Listen, it doesn't matter who you are. As you grow older, you build walls. I've heard people saying, oh, this is the fine side of my face. If I take pictures like this, these are examples like, oh, this is my fine side. This is not my fine side. As we go older, we get so much information, we're starting to build walls. I don't smile like this. I don't walk like this. I don't eat this. This is not my color. This is not my that. As an artist, all that is nothing. I went into that training thinking, oh man, how can I become like the next Denzel? Listen, I came out open. I understood the human experience. Now, when you go from wanting to be famous to understanding the craft and becoming a curious person, you now know that you're constantly training as an actor, not only when you're in front of the camera. You're on the bus, you're watching life happen. You have kids, you're watching life happen. You feel pain, you're watching life happen. You watch a fight, you're watching life happen. You watch sports, you're watching life happen. And what that does is you're no longer playing an idea of what you think life is, but you're feeling that thing first. I'll give you an example. If I come and I scream, say, what are you doing? You say, oh, Michael's angry. What are you doing? Like, you're like, oh my God, Michael, like, what did I do? But I can come here and just go, oh yeah, you're right. Like, hey, Michael, what's up? And I don't say anything again. I'm not shouting. And I just say, sit down. I say, sit down. You'd be like, Michael, what's going on? I'd be like, sit down. Then I tell someone else, shut the door, please. And tell no one to walk in here till I'm done. I've set the stage.
Right.
Or I can come and say, oh yeah, Iri, why did you do this? Oh yeah, Iri, close that door. Hey, wait. So when that starts to happen, then it tickles you. Like when you get an audition, you're just like, okay, like, you know. And I won't say sadly, but you have to be foolish enough to enjoy this without getting paid. Because if I was getting paid every week, then that's my motivation, right? So when you ask me, like, how do you do these things for 10 years? It's because I fell in love with the craft. So every disappointment becomes, you know, like a pillar of stone that takes me closer to, you know. And don't get me wrong. We can come here and talk about the technicalities of becoming an actor. I don't want anyone to watch this and think all I need to find is the technicalities or do these two things and it's going to work for me. Like I said earlier on, you have to own your story. But what I mean by that is you're going to be on a journey and people are going to be ahead of you. People are going to look down at you. People are going to reject you. It is lonely, bro. And I realized that for me, my whole life is craft. Because I'm talking to you now because of my experiences, right?
Yeah.
And there's some boy or some girl somewhere that's going to listen to this and think, okay, there's something at the end of the tunnel if I can just persevere. But like I said again, there's people in my life, bro, that just came and helped me at the right time. If I was to plan, if I came to you in 2009 and say, Rishi, I keep saying Rishi. All right,
by the way, Rishi is a really good friend of ours.
I know. Oh, yeah, hear it. If I come to you and I say, I'm going to America to become an actor, please be truthful with me. You know, if I came to you in 2009, knowing what you know, I'm going to Hollywood. Do you get what I'm saying? But you have, and because I've experienced it, it is possible. And I wish, there's something I didn't do in Nigeria. I wish I traveled to Ibadan, just spend a weekend, went to Maiduguri, spend a weekend with a group of friends, you know, go to Jos, spend a few. Nigeria is so rich in culture and experience. But to us, we felt like we had to go to Jand or Dubai to have this experience. But Nigeria in itself, with just the culture, I feel terrible when I tell people I spent 6 years in Ibadan and I can't speak Yoruba fluently. That doesn't tell good of me as an artist. That I lived in a culture, because then they tell us Yoruba bombas, did you come to school to learn how to speak Yoruba? So we're all trying to be Foner, like, you know, English speaking boys. But that's the whole point of life, bro. So that's, if I tell you this, if I didn't train, right? And it doesn't sound glamorous to train for 3.5 years and not work, bro. You're going to class every day. Like I'll go to class for about 3 to 4, 5 hours. Okay. Get out of class and drive for Uber. Do you understand what I'm saying? But that's the part you don't see. People who see Jeffrey Wright and Michael Jibrin like, but that's because America is a different playing ground, but like it's like a different league on its own. And I'm not trying to slight like the whole like, oh, America is hard, but I think what's hard is the change in culture, weather, sense of community, how people interact with each other. In Nigeria, I can show up to your house without calling you. You can come to my house. I don't know if it's changed now, but like I won't be like, oh, why did you know? I'll be like, yeah, welcome. If I'm drinking Gary, we'll drink Gary together. You know, all the formalities of, and I think that's what I miss about Nigeria is that sense of community. Mm-hmm. You know, if I go to watch football somewhere, I'm hugging and high fiving guys I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying? Like there's just that simplicity. You know, so that's what keeps me going, bro. You know, and one thing I struggle with also is whenever I got work, I was happy. When I didn't get work, I would feel sad. But what started to happen was, if I'm sad, then my marriage suffers, my kids suffers, because now my whole purpose is tied on this job that seemingly is just playing games with me. Like they want me not, you know? But then I realized that being an artist, you have to take care of the father, the artist, the husband, the individual, you know? I love sports. Enjoy your sports. If you play basketball, enjoy, you know. So those things keep you going, and not just the art. If you take the art by itself, there's going to be a lot of disappointments in that.
Oh man, I'm really on the first hand just moved by how you've really grown as an artist, but also how you've grown as a person. And it's a beautiful thing to see. I cannot even begin to explain in words. I mean, there was, like I said, there was a point when you were speaking and I felt literally like tears welled up in me. I was like, what's going on here, brother? Chill, relax, calm down, relax, calm down. But you've really grown as an artist and as a person. And from looking at all the work that you've done and looking at your family, you know, you're a father to three amazing daughters,
three girls and
a boy, yeah, right? So, I mean, no one will look at you at that time and would have known how far you could have come. Even you yourself said so, right? And in this conversation that we've been having, I think the one thing that has really been circulated around has just really been that thing about how we can't really plan, that we should really own our story. And I want you to talk to me about one last thing, one very important thing in all of that. What does Michael imagine next 20 years could be?
Oh man. I'm getting teary-eyed. Man. I don't know. I'd like to tell you, there are a lot of great things I can say. There's a lot of very smart, intelligent things I can say for the next 20 years. I want to walk with Denzel. Because you know, everything I've been blessed with, I couldn't see. Not one thing I can say I saw it coming. And I've tried that. It set me up for a lot of disappointments. But I know there's more. If you can stay open. I'll say this. I'm a Christian. I would hate to just sound motivational just for the sake of pointers. But my faith in God is key, bro. That's the foundation of it, man. And then with that, all things are possible. Outside of that, it's just me. So when I say that everything, I had prayer points in Nigeria. Bro, my prayer point was not meeting Jennifer Lawrence or Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, and I'll give you I'll tell you this before I go. And this is why I say I can't even tell you what my next 20 years will look like. I hope they're amazing. I hope they're better than what I've experienced. In 2008, I went with Damilola Falmekinwa. I'm not saying this because he knows the story. Dami was going to see some pastor in Yaba, and he calls me up. He's like, hey, man, I'm going to see this person. Do you want to go with me? I was like, sure, let's go. So he goes, he sees this pastor, and they're talking. And then there's a guy called Pastor Chinedu. I don't even know where that guy is today. So Pastor Chinedu comes to me and is like, yo, Michael, how you doing? Where you from? We're talking. And he goes, is there anything you want God to do for you? And I said, oh, there's this girl I like now. She really likes me for who I am. She likes that I'm an actor, that I play basketball. And I just don't want to do anything to ruin it because I feel like she's the one. And you have to understand that. I've had a cycle of relationships with women where when I walk into a place, everyone just has this assumption that I schooled in Jan or I went to Young, and they just think like my dad is some rich guy. And I can see the excitement. I've seen it multiple times where girls are like excited. Hey, who are you? Where'd you go to school? Where, secondary school or university? I say, university? I didn't go to university. Basically, there was a hype and a crash. That's the story of my life, bro. So I met this girl who I thought she was comfortable with what I was going through at the moment. And I said, I just want you to pray with me so I don't do anything to ruin it. Because again, insecurity, I think I'm the one, messing it up. He said, she's not your wife. And he goes, there's a white woman in America. She's praying for her daughter to meet you. He gave me a scripture in Habakkuk and said, I should write it down, make it better. I was like, yeah, right. All these fake pastors. I left there feeling bad because that's not what I wanted. I had a dream, I had seen something, and I wanted her. Nothing else, not even a white woman. Nothing was better than her. She's the one. And now you're telling me not only that she's not the one, but that there's some white woman that when am I even going to get this visa? What is going to take me to America? And I'm not playing basketball anymore. I called him a fake pastor. And I walked out of that place feeling really sad. And that's what happens when you have your plans and God has his. Because his sound foolish to your wise mind. But look at where I am, man, bro. It came. But you know what happens is when things like that happen, we're like, all right, thank you. Let's take over. But to lean on that trust. So when I look at that in itself, bro, like I said, I don't want to come here. Like my art is great and everything. I can tell you to be encouraged. And when people ask me, I'm like, I just don't want to be a motivational speaker. I want you to understand that there's something that's bigger than us. And if we can lean into that, that's my hope, bro.
And I think that's a wrap. I think anything beyond this, mic drop, that's it. That's it, man.